This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good afternoon everyone. Shalom Aleichem. Baruchim Abayim. Hope everybody's having a good day. Okay, we're continuing in the Iggeres HaMussar of Rabbi Salanter. And Rabbi Yisrael mentioned that there are really two types of averos, and these two types of averos can be understood and used to explain two types of Yetzer Haras. We have one type of avera, which is just desire, pure desire, passion, where even though a person knows the repercussions, he still wants to indulge in what's good for the moment, and this has its examples in the real world, also in the people's conduct in this world, in terms of eating habits and so forth. However, there's another aspect of improper behavior that cannot be merely explained by desire and passion, because there are sins that people do that are unnatural, and there are sins that people do which there is no desire or passion for them or taiva for them. It's just a sin, and perhaps the category of deviant behavior, which is unnatural, would be explained by this second category of sin, namely just a kayach hatuma. It's just a force of impurity. Well, says Rabbi Yisrael, these two types of sins can be used to explain a age-old chakira, and that is, what is the identity of the Yetzer Hara? Is the Yetzer Hara a koyach hatuma that brings a person to sin, or is the Yetzer Hara desire and passion? Says Rabbi Yisrael, bezois matzanu pesher davar ben hashitos. With this we could find an explanation of something. We could find a compromise among the various opinions regarding the Yetzer Hara and the Yetzer Tov Mahima. Hashita ha'achas, the first opinion. Hashita hanoida is the well-known opinion that the ki ha'yetzer hara hu kayach hatuma. The more well-known opinion is the Yetzer Hara is the force of impurity. Ba'adam hamoyviloi lebshayim, that brings a person to sin. It's just a force of impurity, not because you really need it or want it or desire it. It's just a force of tumah that brings a person to avera. V'yetzer hatoiv hu kayach hakedusha ba'adam. Yetzer hatov is a force of holiness, hamoyviloi letov, that brings him to good. Hu shitas roiv hamachabrim hagdolim. This is the opinion of most great authors. V'hashita shniyahi, however, the second opinion, sheyetzer hara hu koyach taivas ha'adam. The Yetzer Hara is man's desire. Hamashkefes es kol ha'oriv l'shaitai, which is just looking to partake of what's sweet for the moment. Oisoi ta'asfeu el beisa. That is what a person gathers into his home, uboy sidbak la'ahava, and that is what a person clings in love. So the second kind of sin, it's not a force of impurity, it's just plain old desire. V'yetzer tov, and regarding relative to this kind of Yetzer Hara, the Yetzer tov is the opposite of desire, but seichel, where a person says, well, this might be enjoyable right now, but in the long run, I'm going to have to pay the price. Hu haseichel hayasher is just common sense, is straight thinking. Hatsoifa umabit lahanoilad, that gazes and sees into the future. Hu pachad yiras Hashem yisparach, which is the fear and the awe of Hashem. Umishpatav haroim lamarbe, and his evil judgments for the many. Uboicher bedavar hamoyel lichboish hataiva. And the Seichel says we're going to choose something beneficial to conquer taiva. In other words, the Seichel says, well, okay, it looks good, it might feel good, but it's not worth it. Because the Seichel is thinking about Laman Yisa'adein Ba'achroina. The Seichel wants to enjoy the afterlife, ba'oineg nifla, and wondrous enjoyment, asher ein day ba'er. There are not enough trees in the forest, meaning there are not enough words to explain Yikras Tefarta, the beauty of its splendor. So there are two kinds of Yetzer Haraz that the Mechabrim argue about. Is the Yetzer Hara a koyach hatuma, or is it passion? Is the Yetzer Hatoiv the koyach hakedusha, or is it seichel hayashar? Ba'ashar, now, says Rabbi Yisrael, I'm going to prove to you that every human being has two kinds of Yetzer Haraz. Because certain sins can only be explained by desire and passion, and certain sins can only be explained by koyach hatuma. Ba'ashar anachnu royim b'chaleis, we see at all times. In Yanei ha'adam eschalfim, people's dealings vary. In other words, different people have different kinds of sins. Ruvain likes lashon hara, Shimon likes bittul Torah, Levi likes histaklos, Yehuda likes geneva, Yisachar likes avodah zara. Everybody has different averos. This one likes kas, that one. Everyone has different things that they are nichshal in. So why would that be? In other words, if the Yetzer Hara was a koyach hatuma, like a malady, like a force of impurity, so everyone should be stricken by the malady uniformly. The fact that people sin in various ways, that seems to indicate it's a matter of personality and taiva, and everyone has different taiva. The same way Ruvain likes chocolate and Shimon likes vanilla, Ruvain likes one kind of sin and Shimon likes another. In Yonah, Kol echad nidmak yoiser, each person clings more laver acheras. Yesh asher chatasam tigdal yoiser, the bittul Torah, mimasumata, and some sin more in wasting time than in improper business dealings, be'amuna, v'nesinas tzedakah, and in giving charity. Some people, they're better at wasting time than being devious in business. V'yesh l'hepach, some people are better at being dishonest and bittul Torah. You have some people who are big masmidim and big ganovim, and you have some people who are very honest and they don't use their time properly. Likewise, when it comes to committing sin, one person is not like their friend. If the Yetzer Hara was merely a force of impurity that seduces a person, as kol bnei adam b'shaveh, why would it not induce and seduce all mankind similarly? If we don't look at their heavenly roots. And now Rabbi Yisrael brings a raya that not only is it koyach hataiva, but there must be a koyach hatuma as well. Meaning there are many sins that cannot be explained merely by taiva. Amnam, however, imnomar, if we're going to say, ki hayetzer hara hu koyach hataiva, that the Yetzer Hara is a force of desire, hadavar nachain, then this explains the varied types of sin that people commit. Ki taivas adam tuya b'mizgai, person's taiva is dependent on his personality, leidasai, his birth, v'harkavasai, and the way his different components fit together, shaitoi v'nyane, his mazel, u'mizgai b'nei adam eschalfim, people's natures change. Therefore their sins change. So this demonstrates that sin is not just a koyach hatuma, but it's a result of taiva, which is reflective of one's personality. However, it is clear that taiva alone does not explain all of man's sin. This also is not possible. Because our eyes see people, we see people doing terrible sins. She'ein ta'avasam garma lahem kol kach. Ein ta'avasam garma lahem kol kach. There are certain averos that are not caused by taiva. Ulefamim ha taiva minagdasa. Just have everyone to mute. Sometimes taiva could counteract and contravene a person's averos, and a person still sins. Let's say someone who's always running after empty honor. And he despises honor of a mitzvah. What does this mean? Sometimes you have somebody who he despises self-aggrandizement, and yet he's always running after kavod. How does that make sense? It must be that there is an operation that man has, there's a mode of operation that man has, namely a person sins even though he knows better. Because there's just a koyach hatuma that induces one to sin. This must be the spirit of impurity, hameval beloy lahara, that confounds and confuses a person to do evil. Gam neged shukasei hahavalas, even against his empty desires. So the Rabbi Yisrael, in his opinion, it is not a machlokes, but there are two kinds of Yetzer Haras that we all possess, and corresponding to that, we have two types of Yetzer Tovs, namely a Seichel Hayashar that sees what's good for the future, and also a Kayach of Tara and Kedusha. Okay, my Rabbi, so hold it over here. Bez Hashem, we'll pick it up on Monday. And bracha v'atzlacha. Have a great day. Shimru tomorrow, 2:30. You have to stay tuned for coming email. Okay? Kol tov everyone. Be well. Bye-bye. Bye.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.